Our feature this week, an encore look at a major policy shift in California now under review by the Supreme Court. It's known as Prop 12, about how livestock must be housed, and it comes from the state with the #1 ag economy by far in the nation. The kicker, though, is that it will force compliance on other states, and that's the issue. Colleen Bradford-Krantz has the story.
Terry Wolters expects the sow buildings in which he has partial ownership will have to be reconfigured to allow more space for each animal if a California statute known as Proposition 12 is implemented in 6 months. The Pipestone, Minnesota farmer doesn't think it will matter that he's not a resident of California.
These regulations set a precedent that a state now is going to mandate how we have to produce that product. And so if one state has one regulation and one state has another regulation, I only have one pig. I can't make my pig meet everybody's regulation.
As of January 1st, 2022, the rules for food products sold in California require all egg-laying hens to be raised in a large pen setting with at least 1 square foot per bird. All calves raised for veal must be provided at least 43 square feet, and all sows must be raised in an area that is a minimum of 24 square feet. While the egg industry had already adjusted somewhat due to an earlier California statute, the impact would be newer to the hog industry and would require most typical sow stalls to be enlarged by about 1/3 over the current average of 18 square feet. Packers will face the choice of either losing the significant California market, which consumes an estimated 15% of the nation's pork, or only buying from producers who comply. One study suggests that less than 4% of the nation's sow housing would be currently considered compliant. The National Pork Producers Council sent a letter to Secretary of Agriculture Tom Vilsack last week asking for his help. It argued that California's Proposition 12 will lead to catastrophic costs for the nation's pork producers. California officials say the rule, first proposed by the Humane Society and approved by the state's voters in 2018 with 63% in favor, is simply the expression of their citizens' wishes.
It is a law that passed by a very popular vote, and our job is to implement it and ensure the integrity of the program that goes forward.
Several national meat industry groups, convinced the California law will affect farmers nationwide, have been pursuing legal challenges to Proposition 12. They argue the statute violates the doctrine known as the Commerce Clause, which prohibits state legislation discriminating against interstate or international commerce. In an April appeals hearing in California federal court, lawyers for the National Pork Producers Council and California state government explained their respective stances.
Proposition 12 controls only the sale of pork products in California, and so it is analogous to Walsh. And that's the common thread. States have always been permitted to exercise their sovereign power over sales within the state.
The result of that is that those immense costs, $3 million for just one of our declarants to conform to that, are going to be borne by every single market hog born by that sow. They're going to be sold in Illinois and in Michigan and lots of other states where the consumers do not want to pay for California's preferences for sow housing.
At least one agricultural policy expert is doubtful these challenges will succeed, as a similar attempt failed when California passed Proposition 2 in 2008. That earlier statute, effective in 2015, required owners of California's egg-laying poultry, sows, and calves raised for veal to provide enough room for each animal to fully turn around and extend their limbs. It initially applied only to those animals raised in California, but when the state's legislature realized they were putting their own egg producers at a disadvantage, the statute was expanded to all eggs sold in the state.
in response to Prop 2, some attorneys general from some of the kind of big egg producing states tried the same thing to get the Supreme Court to strike down Prop 2, and the Supreme Court declined to do that. The reason kind of on their face that they said they wouldn't do it is because the attorneys general basically weren't egg farmers, and so they didn't have kind of a right to criticize this law. I think in reality, that's sort of just trying to dodge the issue.
Michigan State's Schaefer helped conduct a study that showed the older statute, Proposition 2, did increase egg costs across the country. The increased prices, he concluded, would hit the nation's lower-income consumers the hardest. The fallout from the measure also increased the speed of consolidation as some poultry farmers left the business rather than spend the money to rebuild their laying facilities. Schaefer expects Proposition 12 will do the same thing to the hog industry. He would prefer to see livestock housing changes come from economic pressure that starts in the grocery store rather than being directed by a single state's popular vote.
If we care about animal welfare, I might be willing to pay more for animal welfare-friendly eggs or animal welfare-friendly pork. This is a different thing, right? Those people that said no now don't get the option to vote with their wallets anymore. And so that is definitely going to negatively affect and has negatively affected sort of the poor people who rely on kind of these staple proteins to feed their families.
California Agriculture Secretary Ross would have preferred a legislative debate.
Our proposition process, just really restricts that exchange of information and the kind of sometimes very detailed and precise scientific information that's hard to convey when it ends up being in a campaign that's about, 30-second sound bites.
No question there will be even larger opposition to Prop 12 if and when it takes effect.